Many of you are new and have been learning much in the last few months since we began these studies on the commandments. Some of you have more experience with the law and you already know the things I'm about to teach you, but they're still worth hearing again and remembering. I've been teaching the commandments plain and simple as they appear in our readings of the Torah without much attention to structure of them. Since in our story today, in the Torah portion, the children of Israel are now being set apart formally and finally as a nation and people before Yahweh, and since many commandments will be taught in quick succession here and in subsequent Torah portions, I wanted to add some structure in order to order and our learning and help you get and keep them straight in your minds. It should help your learning immensely. There's a lot to learn and a lot to remember. And sometimes it seems that the commandments of the Most High come willy-nilly, just in no particular order, and are all just lumped together. It's a lot to remember. The rabbis enumerate 613 commands, as you've no doubt seen over the last few months. There are many more than that. A lot of those don't concern us today as far as us having to keep them, but many do. Differences of interpretation and understanding between rabbinical Judaism and the followers of the way. So let's set up some structure here, and I hope this helps you. There are two primary types of teaching, and I believe we mentioned this before. And by the way, not everyone, or every scholar anyway, will agree with my application of these terms, but nevertheless, they're accurate and they're helpful. Those two primary types are agadic and halakhic. The word Ovadyah means to tell, as in tell a story. An example of this term is the booklet or book that we use during our Passover Seder or any Seder service. It's called a Haggadah, and that is a noun which derives from the term Ovadyah and means to tell, as in a story or even a parable. It's another way to learn besides just giving you plain information, raw information. The other one, halakha, halak means to walk in Hebrew. It's the way one walks out the commandments. Halakha is most often a definite command or description of a command, part of a simple list or explanation of a method that you carry out a specific commandment or set of commandments. So you have one, halakha, that is an explicit instruction. This is how you do it. This is what you do and how you do it. Ovadyah, which is more general and tells you in story form. There are several reasons for this. There are, for instance, on the secular law books, there are a lot of laws. Most every law is enacted by government or set forth by someone, but it's not really known how that law is going to work and play out or what it looks like until there's a case precedent set. That is, somebody actually uses it. And those case precedents are set forth in books to show people, and with the rulings from judges on how they were finally applied and interpreted. The books containing the case precedent are incredibly more voluminous than than the laws themselves. It's easy to state a law. It takes a little more work to describe how it's applied and set that precedent for it. So that's essentially the situation we are in here with the Torah. Halakha, the law is set forth. Ovadyah, the story is set forth to show you how it was applied or should be applied. Here. The scripture, this is part of our Torah portion, says, "And Yahweh went before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a column of fire to give them light, so that they go by day and night." The word you see in that first part of the verse, it went, is actually the Hebrew word holek. And holek means, it's a form of the word to walk. So Yahweh walked before them by day in a column of cloud to lead the way. And he walked by night in a column of fire to give them light. Yeah, I know. There's a lot that can be said about that verse and about that word, what it might mean, spiritual implications, second meanings, and we're not going to get into that today, but it's there for you. And hopefully the picture gives you some better grasp of the difference between Ovadyah and Halakha and what that word halak actually means. It's how we walk out the commandments. Okay. So the question has to come up, why does Yahweh go to all this trouble? Why does he give us all of this halakha and then Ovadyah? Why doesn't he just give us a short list of commandments? Here, this is what you do. I'm the Most High, and that's it. Well, it would be a very short book, not nearly the amount of pages and text that we're used to in our copies of the Scripture or in the Torah. But would that help us? Now, there are some commands, very few, that are derived directly through Ovadyah, through a telling. Most of those are interpreted by the rabbis that way. No reason to go into that, simply a fact. But again, the law is set forth, and Ovadyah helps to flesh it out. The main reason for that he does that for us, is so we can more fully and better understand what those laws are, and not only that, what the entire backstory is between he and his people, between him and us. I think even more important is another reason that he does this. He does it because he loves us. You can sit down and tell your child, do this, don't do that, and leave it to them to obey or not, and then punish or reward them when they do or don't. Or you can explain to the child, you don't do this, and here's why. And you take the time to do that. And you do that, take that time, because you love them. You care about them. You not only want them to hear, do what's right, not do what's wrong, but you want them to learn and understand. He loves us. That's why he takes the time. That's why you have so many pages in the Scriptures. And that's what the Scriptures are. They're not just a book of rules. They're not just history. In fact, they're not even a complete version of all history of mankind. Just of the children of Israel, beginning with, in the beginning, an Adam, which means man or mankind, and evolving through a process until some of his descendants merit to become, or he chooses to become, his children, the children of Israel. In other words, not only does he love us, but this book, the way he's done this, all of it taken together from one end to the other, is a love story. That's what the scriptures are. So, that's why the beginning portions of the Torah are more of a background story. The bulk of the commands come later to the children of Israel. Those the love story is written about. Now, I'm pretty sure that the meaning and the story of, pardon the pun, of Ovadyah is pretty clear. Halakha is what I want you to understand here today. Halakha consists of instructions, teaching, direct laws. Do this, don't do that, and here's how you do it. There are 4 major types of laws in the Torah. And if you have a pencil and you feel comfortable doing it, you might jot this down or replay it later. And look into this and learn about it, because it's important. And it will help you understand the laws a lot better. It'll help you order them in your thinking. The 4 kinds are, 1, the Torah. The Torah is not simply a reference to the 5 books of Moshe or anything else. It means teaching. It's a teaching on how to do something, or on how to understand and become one of the children of Israel. Teachings in general. Number 2 is a mitzvah, or mitzvoth, plural. Those are commandments, instructions, direct, clear, plain. They generally are reasonable. They have a reason, and you can understand that reason. They're otherwise known as excellent deeds. If you do those, you're doing the right thing. If you don't do those or act against them, you're doing the wrong thing, and you're not righteous. Number 3 is our mishpatim, or a mishpat, singular. These are civil laws between people. That word mishpat stems from the word shafat, which means to judge. And mishpatim literally means judgments. Behavior, rights and wrongs, and how you treat your fellow, whether it be your fellow man or in a relationship between you and the Most High. Civil laws. The 4th and final type of law is a kuk. Most of the time we spell that C-H-U-Q or U-K, not K-O-O-K, but there is a similarity between the two, if you will, because a kook can seem rather kooky. Yeah, I know. Weak humor, but at least you're getting some. A kook is a law with no discernible reason. Makes no apparent sense. Or if you do find a reason for it, you're stretching it, you're guessing. You're using supposition. The best example I can think of in Scripture, and that most people use to describe it, is that of the red heifer. Now, why would the Most High tell us to take a young red cow without any blemish whatsoever, kill it, burn it, and process its ashes, and that person who does that thing becomes unclean in the process? And then store and use those ashes, and the person who does that becomes unclean in the process. And then ultimately apply them to people who have become unclean by corpse uncleanness, and just about anything else, and make that person clean through them. They would take the ashes, mix them to a high degree with water, and apply them to those who had an uncleanness so that they could come into the temple grounds and into the temple. That was the primary reason for the ashes of the red heifer. But people become unclean because of the ashes of a red cow, and those same ashes make someone else clean. Kooky indeed. There are many other commandments in the scriptures that make no apparent sense to us. In fact, the thinking goes that we shouldn't even try to figure out what the reason is behind a kook, because it's meant to be not vague in how it should be performed, but vague in its reasoning. In other words, the Most High tells you to do it, and you do it. You don't ask. And there are some scholars who think that there is such a thing as a kook in order to test us, try us, to see whether we'll obey and listen to the Most High, whether it makes sense to us or not. Okay, so the 4 types of commands: Torah, mitzvah, mishpat, and kukim. Teachings, excellent deeds or direct commands that make sense. Judgment, civil law between people, and kook, laws with no discernible reason. It will help you in your understanding, and helps you, if you already know these things, to be able to look at a law or the laws as we receive them in this and subsequent Torah Parashoth, and categorize them and understand which category they fall into. In Scripture, in the Torah, some of these laws are defined explicitly under these categories. He tells us this is a command, a mitzvah, this is a mishpat, this is a kook, this is a Torah. In other instances, he doesn't tell us which one the category they belong to, but it's either obvious and apparent, or they fall within a certain group. Now, the Rambam, who enumerated the 613 commandments of rabbinical teaching, he did his enumeration topically, not in the order that they came in Scripture. And that's helpful in some ways, and he had to figure out some way to do it. But here, in this study, over the last few months, and in the future, we're doing this as they appear in Scripture, not topically. Because the Rambam's method doesn't give context. You have no background story or circumstance to compare or understand, compare with or understand the command through. Doing things in the order that the Torah presents them gives you that context, and we think presents a clearer picture. So you should be able to see which of these commands are of which type. If you can't, you're welcome to ask and or research it for yourself. And I hope this clarifies them for you and makes them easier to understand. Now, the reason that the Scripture does this is so you have the Halakha and the Ovadyah together. These things are grouped in a way that you can see them and they make sense to you, so that we can know who we are and what we should do about them. And we'll be seeing all types of these commands in the coming Parashoth, Torah portions.